Hello and welcome. My name is Topsoil, also known as Joseph Hiller, and I'm leading tonight's call. Today is August 15th, 2012, and this is a Tzaddi Spirit Gathering teleconference. And our topic today is an exploration of this solar holiday called Llamas, or First Harvest. This call is being recorded so that people who could not be here tonight can listen in later. The way to mute and unmute the phone is *6 if you're on the line, and we ask that people mute when they're not talking so that the line stays quiet. So let's take a moment now to get settled, to center ourselves, let go of the events of this day, and begin to enter a deeper, sacred space within ourselves. Let us imagine that we're joining together, sacred heart to sacred heart, with every person on this call right now. Now let us imagine that we're joined together, sacred heart to sacred heart, with everyone who will listen to this recording. And also with those who are part of Tzaddi, have been a part of Tzaddi, and will be in the future, joining heart to heart, linking across space and time. Now let us set our intentions. May we deepen our connection with the divine. May this sharing serve each of us on our spiritual journey. May it serve our communities, and may it serve the whole, the planet, and all beings. And so it is. August 2nd is, in many traditional cultures, a holiday. It's the halfway point between the summer solstice and the fall equinox. In some cultures, it was the beginning of fall. In the British Isles, there was a name for it, which is Llamas or Lunasa, and there it was considered the first harvest, the time when many berries and fruits are ready to harvest, but many of the crops are still in the fields and not ready to harvest yet. It seems to me that this is, well, all of the metaphors associated with the solar holidays talk about a place in the process, in the movement of life, and that process is cyclical and keeps recurring. And so wherever we are in our lives, there are aspects that we can find of all of those different spaces. In some ways, they all occur within each other. And yet, there are times when things are more at the beginning, or they're more in the middle, or they're more at the end, or they're more like being digested or prepared for rebirth. And the metaphor of this time of year, of first harvest, I'd like us to consider this as the idea of being in process, having a project underway and being involved with the bringing to fruition of that project. like the raising of crops over a season. They're already planted. They're in the ground. The weather is doing what it's doing. And day by day, those crops are growing and ripening. The project is moving forward. In the exploration of this, I'd like to read a blessing to set space. And this is a blessing from John O'Donohue in his book, To Bless the Space Between Us. And this is a blessing for presence. Awaken to the mystery of being here and enter the quiet immensity of your own presence. Have joy and peace in the temple of your senses. Receive encouragement when new frontiers beckon. Respond to the call of your gifts and the courage to follow its path. Let the flame of anger free you from all falsity. May the warmth of heart keep your presence aflame. May anxiety never linger about you. May your outer dignity mirror an inner dignity of soul. Take time to celebrate the quiet miracles that seek no attention. Be consoled by the symmetry of your soul. May you experience each day as a sacred gift woven around the heart of wonder. I chose that blessing because I want to explore this space of being in the middle, the space of first harvest. And one of the things I'd like us to consider is the idea of presence, of discerning what's true, discerning what's actually happening, of bringing ourselves more and more into acknowledgement, more and more into appreciation of the details of where we are now, and making that in each moment our starting place for the next moment. So in any project, in any accomplishment, there's work to do over time. Some parts ripen faster than others. It can help us to stay more peaceful and more in our power to bring our awareness to discern what's true now, where we are from moment to moment, and let go of what we think should be happening. In this time of year, according to Sun Bear, in his vision, his medicine wheel vision, he calls this month, this moon that Llamas is right in the middle of, he calls it the ripe berries moon. And he says about the ripe berries moon in his book, Dancing with the Wheel. He says, he says the ripe berries moon teaches us how to work from the heart center, how to demonstrate affection, how to face fears, and how to develop leadership abilities. This moon helps develop courage and power. In linking that with the theme of presence, it seems to me being centered in the heart is essential for presence. The heart space allows us to be more present with how things are, with ourselves and with each other and with the movements and rhythms of life. And developing that heart presence takes courage. It takes willingness to see things for how they are, not necessarily for how we think they should be or want them to be. And that can go either way. There can be, sometimes we can have positive imaginings of how things are, or we can have worry and negative imaginings of how things are. And sometimes those are justified. Sometimes it might be like that, but then it might not as well. And holding things softly, being open to new information, being open to see things differently, feels like part of the challenge of being present, to discern and be flexible. I'd also like to bring in the idea of wholeheartedness, of being committed to our project. From this heart space where we're considering courage and we're considering presence, what are we committed to? How wholehearted are we? What is our heart saying to us? There can be streams, there can be different feelings and thoughts coexisting. We might not be wholehearted. We might be partial-hearted. What are those different streams and how do they relate to each other? How can we develop more wholeheartedness? What do we need to take care of to be more committed to what's right in front of us? What do we need to heal? What do we need to address? What conversations need to be had? How do we build the trust to open to more wholeheartedness? How do we build the trust to allow courage and to allow grace? So I invite you to think of a situation in your life where things are in process, where something is underway and it's unfolding. And I'll invite you to consider, who have you been in that? What has your role been? How have you seen yourself in it? This might be like an identity or an identification. It might be a role you've played many times before, or it might be a different role. It might have similarities to some roles and be different in some ways. How does that feel to notice who you've been in the situation? Can you see anything newly about it now? Who have other people been in this situation? How have you related with them? Has that been smooth? Have there been starts and stops? What's the texture of that? What's the quality of it? What's been generated so far between you and others? And what is there to say about that? What is there to acknowledge about that? Is there anything calling to be done about that now? What's the movement of life through this situation? Taking into account the times, culture, the evolution and movement from one age to another through different explorations and points of view, the timing of life and the timing of people in life, that some people at any given moment are young, some are middle-aged, and some are older. How does that fit into the movement of this project, the movement of this ripening? What aspects of it, of this situation, are ripe already? What can be harvested so far? What can be acknowledged as true? That this has happened. This is accomplished. We can celebrate that this is done, or at least we can acknowledge it. And who are we with that acknowledgement? Who do we become when we notice what's true? What of this truth have we been resisting? Where is it that we might hold a fantasy or some image about how things should be, and we keep working and working and working to have the fantasy come true rather than acknowledge what's really happening and what's really possible? How can we be gentle with ourselves and honor what we really need and let go of the resistance, let go of the image, let go of the fantasy? And how does that open? How does the releasing of what no longer fits, the releasing of what we've seen through as no longer true, how does that affect us? What does that make possible if we let go of the shoulds? Who do we become? What becomes available to us, and what's next? How are we in our bodies at this time? Where is there ease? And where is there struggle? Where is there relaxation? And where is there stress? And in our emotions, the same. In our hearts, where is the energy flowing freely? And where is it that we might be having a harder time being present with our hearts, being present in our hearts and in our minds, our thoughts? Are they constricting us, or are they providing a good and healthy structure for making sense of the world? What is it easy to be present with? What is it more challenging to be present with? through all this exploration of the project and where things are, and this exploration of ourselves and how we are, where does that come together? What is there for us to do, to take care of, to be responsive to be receptive to? What is there to listen for? What is there to contribute? What is there to disrupt? I invite us to open to a blessing of courage, to bring the quality of courage into our awareness, as if we're breathing courage in through our breath. Into our bodies and into the subtle bodies in and around the physical body. This courage to be present with what's true, to discern more and more, and to be willing to allow our vision of what is true and what is actual to be updated moment to moment from the feedback that we get from life, moment to moment as we interact. This courage becoming like a vibration or a color, however you experience it in your awareness. And letting that be like a pillar to steady yourself with and against, a place of strength. Good. And also, now finding the quality of compassion, that gentleness with ourselves when we're too hard with ourselves and each other, and then that firmness when we're not firm enough, when there's something we're resisting, that compassionate call to truth, that loving embrace that guides. Breathing compassion. Like another pillar, or in any way that it occurs to you. Maybe it is a different metaphor, a different way that is becoming present. In clarity, that our awareness may be clear, that we may recognize things for what they are, even if that is in process, even if that is unclear, to be clear about something being not quite crystallized yet, not ready to be discerned. Breathing in that quality of clarity as a strength, as something that's available, as something that can be developed and accessed. And finally, love, the quality of embracing, the quality of allowing into the heart and allowing energy to move from the heart out into the world. The acceptance of things as they are. The releasing of protections and the embracing and peace with how things are in the moment, just as they are, even when they can be different, even when you hold an intention that they be different, still embracing them as being perfect in this moment as they are, bringing love and acceptance into our hearts, into our breath, into our bodies, and letting that love radiate through us and back out into the world. Good. When I was looking into Llamas, I found a website called the School of the Seasons. And they had 4 things. They said that Llamas is a festival of regrets and farewells, of harvests and preserves. And I think that goes along well with the theme of what we've been exploring so far, of getting present with how things actually are. And we can ask ourselves, are there any regrets we're holding that it's time to let go of? As we notice that things aren't as we hope they might be, can we embrace with love how they actually are and release the regrets? What is there to say farewell to? What was part of the process so far that it's really time to let go of? What's already been harvested? What's ready for harvest now? What's not quite ripe yet? Where are we with that? And preserves. How can we take what has been harvested, what we notice, what we're able to be present with, and keep it present for ourselves to, as it were, put up jams and jellies, can the fruits and the harvest, so that their wisdom, their nutrition, their nurturance is available to us. Good. So this is a lot of questions. These have been a lot of questions and a lot of exploration and a dive into the energy of awareness and presence and questioning and being in process. And I'll invite all of us now to begin to come back more to our more normal, engaging, interactive mind, to come out of the meditative space a bit. And then we can begin to move towards sharing. If anybody would like to share any insights that they had, any questions that opened up for them, anything that was powerful or interesting from all that I've presented and all that we've been exploring in the energy. And I know it can take people a little while to come back from that kind of space. But I'll just hold space and be quiet. And if you feel moved to share, please do. And otherwise, we can just continue to float in this energy for a while. Share, or continue to explore and be with the energies. I'm still here, just holding space to be with the energy.
This is
back.
Nancy. Joe? Topsoil?
Yeah, welcome back. Yeah.
Oh, hi. I got disconnected, but I had something to share from your meditation, if this is still a good time for that.
Yeah, please do. That'd be great.
Okay. Well, I found the meditation particularly helpful in the light of Llamas and it being a time of year when projects have begun and are underway, but not completely finished. And several situations came to mind. One is that I'm working on getting a book published. And so I was able to think about this project in terms of the many questions that you asked, which I felt gave me a viewpoint like looking at a many-faceted crystal. I was able to see new planes of existence in the project and how I am relating to the book and the fluidity of what's happening now. And also a lot of light. It just was enlightening. And conversely, with a family challenging situation, I also found the questions revelatory and producing within me new ways of looking at this situation and just questions to live with and pursue further. So I want to say it's been very fruitful personally, and I'm really grateful for this opportunity. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been finding myself in the middle of these questions as well, and I sort of have verbalized them in a different way, to present them for this call, but I've been finding this kind of questioning about being more present with how things actually are is really like a very ripe theme lately in my life, and I've been seeing it in sharing with other people around me too. Like, it might not show up exactly the same for all of us, but there's a way that we're sort of like looking to get more present with what is, and that seems powerful, and I thought that could be something powerful for us to share and explore on this call. So I'm really glad that it did support you and that it is supporting you.
Yeah, so much so that I would love to be able to record this myself and, just re-experience it periodically. It's alive and fluid and fruitful.
Awesome. Yeah, I think there are ways to do that. There is the callback number, and you can listen to it again. And there are ways to do that through the computer, like to Skype or use some other program where you can call a phone number through your computer, and then there are programs that can capture the audio. There are ways to do that. I think also that that there is a plan underway, and I'm not sure. It may be possible that that the calls will be archived and available more than just for the following month. At the moment, it is just the following month, and I'm not sure whether that archiving is actually going to happen or not. But it may happen, and that would certainly be easier than perhaps finding those different programs and recording it through a computer.
Yeah, definitely. That's a great idea.
Yeah. Anybody else want to share? Is there any other sharing for today?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, good. The mute's off. Yes, thank you. That was, it was deep. I would like to listen to it again as well. And I also was a little surprised at having a new perspective on how something's going, where I like how Nancy spoke of the different planes or facets of a crystal, and there were strengths and weaknesses in the different parts of the project, and to see it that way, that it was see the strengths and even acknowledge those, and see the other as the weaknesses is also something that is new. It's like carrying through a project, like it's something that I'm new at. So of course it's in bringing it to fruition. There's new aspects to it where it's like but I'm weaker at it. But it helped put it in a different perspective, seeing it from a whole view.
Yeah, it sounds like you're finding more peace to be where you are, and to have compassion for what you have developed so far and what's yet calling to be developed.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Like not expecting ourselves to already be masterful at something that we haven't practiced yet.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah, that sounds really good. Sounds like a great shift.
Mhm. Yeah, it really, the meditation really allowed there to be a overview, I think, in seeing, as you say, as something just what's so, not having the distance to see
Mhm.
without the judgments or the assessments. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, there's something paradoxical in there that's been showing up for me lately about the fact that we're humans and we have minds and we operate by thinking. Part of how we orient in the world is by creating thoughts about things and organizing those thoughts and categorizing things. Like, they say, like in neuroscience and behavior studies, they say that if we had to negotiate everything freshly in every moment, we don't have the energy for that. Like, we couldn't burn enough calories to have the energy to respond to everything freshly in every moment. And so we make patterns. Like we don't think about walking once we learn to walk, generally speaking. Sometimes we do, but generally it goes on autopilot. All these things, they go on autopilot. And yet, as we keep evolving, it's important to keep seeing things freshly and keep updating the images. And so there's this tension between what's made sense in the past and we have, like a set pattern for, or it's become a habit, and the aliveness of spirit, the transcendent, like having room for the transcendent to still be showing up. Like the integration of matter and spirit and the sort of like, we have to use thoughts. We have to create patterns in order to exist, and yet sometimes those patterns, we could have patterns that are more flowing. We could have patterns that are more joyful. We could have patterns that are more fulfilling. And so bringing ourselves to the discipline of being on that edge of discerning what's next to be upgraded, what's calling, like what can I see now that I couldn't see before, that shifts how I see myself, like to have an identity, but to have it softly, to acknowledge a starting place, but keep that open to be altered by what we see next. That seems to me like a kind of place of integration, a place of a little bit of paradox and a little bit of mystery, maybe a lot of mystery. I don't know if that speaks into what you were saying, Lori, but I was hearing that, or what you said spurred me to share that. Any other sharing before we close?
Well, I'm thinking of a metaphor that feels really alive for me right now, listening out to both of you, and that is that my vegetable gardens this year are doing really pretty well despite the drought, and I planned, certain areas for potatoes or chard, tomatoes, peppers, garlic, all kinds of plants. And, some of them did really well, and some did less well. And meanwhile, what I didn't plant, all of the volunteer tomatoes and volunteer squash that surprised me, has done even better in most cases. than my planned garden beds. And so at this time of year, the time of year that your meditation spoke to, I'm noticing this wonderful blend of intentional work and creation with surprises and the unexpected life that flows in and takes its rightful place and enriches, everything in the garden. So I walk and look at the plants each day and notice this little tiny steps of growth or the curve of a flower stem. And I think it just fits with what we're all talking about. So I wanted to add that.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. That's beautiful. Lovely. Well, I think it is time to close the call. So I'd like to thank you all, those who've come in person and those who are listening later or are touched by the energy of this call in some other way. Thank you for your presence and support and joining in. We hope you'll join us on the next Tzaddi Spirit Gathering call, which will be an autumn equinox celebration, and that will be led by the Reverend Jill Rubel, and that is on September 19th, 2012. These calls, for the time being, are on the third Wednesday of every month. These calls are hosted by Tzaddi, a spiritual educational organization founded in California in 1964. Tzaddi welcomes, nurtures, and supports people in celebrating and more directly experiencing their relationship with the loving presence of the divine. Our programs are open to people of any race, color, or national or ethnic origin. Visit www.tzaddi, www.tzaddi.org to learn more about our work, and click on payments if you'd like to make a tax-deductible donation to help support the church and its programs. We'll now close with thanks and a blessing. Thanks to Tzaddi founders Amy Keyes and Dorothy Blackmere, who started our metaphysical organization. Thanks to you who have been part of our community tonight and whenever you're listening. And thanks to the divine that supports us always, even if and when we're not aware of it. May the blessing of the divine be upon us all. So it is. Thanks very much, you guys. I wish you a very good night, a very good day, wherever and whenever you are.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.
All right. Take care.
Good night.